we are here today to acknowledge very important work that began in the fall of 2017, when History 311, a course on American slavery, taught by this great professor next to me, Professor PINSKER, first convened in the seminar room at the House Divided studio. The work that emerged so appropriately came from students and from faculty research, and I think that's the best way to understand and acknowledge our troubled past. And that's what this important work does. It acknowledges and honors those persons, particularly those who were formerly enslaved, whose stories have been forgotten or lost over the years. I acknowledge and thank the faculty and students involved in that. The time is always, always ripe to do right. In this spirit, Dickinson College is doing right. We are more thoroughly and thoughtfully reconsidering our history as an institution and as a society, owning up to it. That we are remembering those whose often heroic lives have been ignored or forgotten. That we are determined to play our role in the telling of a more complete, a more inclusive, a more just history of what has happened on this campus, in this community, and in this country. For we are all heirs to it all, and we must continue to make this country, this campus, our world more equitable and more inclusive. As we follow the signposts around the campus, may we, all of us, and may those who will follow us, gain a clearer understanding and picture of our past, of our struggles to achieve Dr. King's dream. And may we renew our dedication to creating a more just society and world.
Dickinson's founding. So this marker specifically focuses on Benjamin Rush and John Dickinson. This marker is conveniently placed in front of the Rush statue because we want to highlight the contradictory views that Rush and John Dickinson had on slavery. So both John Dickinson and Benjamin Rush were both slaveholders, yet they abhorred slavery. They were against it, yet they had slavery. They had slaves. So what they did was they eventually freed their slaves over time, but not without being able to profit off of them.
Here we've included a colorized image of the Scott family in order to humanize Dred Scott, who was not just a Supreme Court case, but was part of a real family. It's really important that we remember his wife, Harriet Robinson Scott, because many historians today believe that she may have actually been the driving force behind their case. Both Dred and Harriet Scott filed original freedom suits in 1846 because their southern enslaver had held them illegally as slaves in a free territory. Here we've included an image of Dred Scott's freedom suit from 1846, and you can see his mark right here. In 1857, the Scotts lost in the U.S. Supreme Court, but both Dred and Harriet and their two daughters, Eliza and Lizzie, ended up being freed later that year anyway. Essentially, we wanted to create this marker as a cautionary tale for modern Dickinsonians, the lesson being that knowledge does not always lead to justice, and just because one knows does not mean one understands. Dred and Harriet Scott were kept illiterate. Dred Scott could not sign his own name, but they understood the promise of the U.S. Constitution better than men like Tawney and Buchanan.
So this is a colorized photograph that was taken by Charles Francis Hines. It was a cyanotype.
Cyanotype or blueprint.
These figures here, this was Robert Young. This is Noah Pinckney and Henry Spradley, and a student was able to colorize this photo. At Dickinson College, there were some pre-Civil War people who worked at the college and were paid, most of them janitors. And post-Civil War, there were over two dozen.
We've identified 24 different figures from the 19th century who were born enslaved, who worked on campus. Not just those three men who are kind of featured in this tour, but all of these others who are either pictured here or identified down here. No interest in it. He was opposed to the slave trade. But when he got down to South Carolina, he changed. But not only did he become a slave owner, he became a leading intellectual defender of slavery. When they named this residence hall after him in 1991, I don't think they knew any of that. You know, it was just what he had done at Dickinson. It wasn't really a process where some of that information was taken into account. So when we started the Dickinson Slavery Project, we looked at the slaveholders who've been honored in Dickinson's past, and he was one of them who seemed the least relevant. As you learned, right, Spradley and Young were on campus for decades. Robert Young was the longest serving employee at Dickinson until very recently. He served over 40 years. He fought to get the school integrated. Henry Spradley was a legend on campus. And so it's a very appropriate decision that the Board of Trustees made last spring to diversify our campus memory and honor people who were part of the community for so long. We've held off the official renaming of Cooper so that we can bring the descendants of these people back to participate in the ceremony, which we're planning to do in November of this coming fall semester.